This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Bud, here with Data Mike and Moneyball Ross. Boys, we are back here. Now we were in early August, and one of the monthly installments that I've enjoyed doing is kind of how did July end for goals and results with clients, and where is August pointing to? Because we would have been through much of the goal setting process and looking at the trends in the market by now at time of the recording here. So, Mikey, for the optimistic view, as Ross is typically pessimistic.
I was going to say, why are you leaving me optimistic?
So let's start with Mikey this time.
Yeah.
On your goal planning calls.
July shook out differently for a lot of folks. Ross and I were chatting about it last week where, some people really just beat expectation and some people really missed. So I dug into that a little bit further and started just going through different portfolios, different suppliers, different parts of the region. And what I found was actually, so from June to July, most AB as a whole slipped about a point or two from their June trends, and most MC clients grew by about a point. So I found that pretty interesting. And then I was also looking around, and Florida, California, across the board had growth from June into July, but the rest of the country really didn't. So not sure. I mean, I know we stole one day from build, and in June we stole a day from July. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. Talking to some clients around the country, just really softer sell-through than what they had expected. I was on the line 2 days ago with a client that is a destination area, right? Destination market for getting out on the lake, and they really rely on not only the summer but obviously July, and the total tourism was down. It kind of comes back to gas prices. People staying at home is what they really chalked it up to. Some bad weather on the 4th could have hurt too, but overall just travel coming in. So
it sounds like some of the stuff we've been talking about is slowly playing out in the numbers. Well, in July too, gas bumped back up as well and came down, but then bounced back up. And now, you guys don't get this newsletter, but I get this newsletter. It was Iran deal, open the strait, V3, final, very final, not to change again. Like that was the file.
That was the final. We'll see how final that is.
All of us would enjoy in our naming vernacular of how we set goals. V2, very final.
Yeah. And when we're trying to wrap up an evening of having beers. All right, final. Just one more.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens there. But that is playing out where gas is still wreaking some challenges and sucking up some disposable income, just in overall changing people's behavior, like what we had predicted back in March when all this happened, and in April when all this started to really kick off. So, Ross, you've been meeting with clients as well for maybe the more pessimistic view. How did July end up?
And pessimistic view. I was very optimistic. I was very optimistic going into the 4th, right? In June, we saw the first version of this deal, and it looked like the timing was perfect for the summer. And June played out well. Before June on this pod, I used to say, well, let's recap the facts here. Right? Is the strait open?
Still
where are gas prices?
Still closed. Gas is still
high.
Where's
inflation?
The Fed wants to meet less often to not talk about inflation as often.
Well, they've convened a council to determine what is the definition of inflation again. Because, the way we're calculating it, the number's too high. So we need to refigure out a way to either A, that's okay, or B, we need to recalculate it so it's not so high. But I think where we lost the ground, at least in my perspective, from a macro perspective, is again the gas prices went back up, the strait closed, uncertainty returned. And we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe final will happen here, but I agree with. It was weird to me was about this month was there weren't any like slightnesses. It was either you made it or you
or you got crushed.
You were crushed. There was really no in between ground. I think those that met it are feeling pretty good about the GP per case gap and what that's doing for them. I think the scary part is for those that missed it as bad as they did, there's no amount of GP per case that can make up for these volume declines. And that's a little disturbing. So I think the other thing that Mike didn't say, which is, the headwinds for August are that the holiday's further away. And for most customers, especially those on the 410s, we're losing a selling day. So it's basically insult to injury coming off a shitty month. So yeah, I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just telling you what it is. All those factors that are problematic headwinds are still there. I will say that there's another piece of this conversation that came in on a couple different client calls that was new. And that is around not just the cost of fuel, but the cost of electricity. Mm. And the anecdote I got was from a specific market that's relatively warm that electricity prices have doubled. And if you live in a hot market, I mean, the numbers they were throwing at me for like a 1,200 square foot house and sound like a mortgage payment.
Really?
So I'm wondering if on top of this fuel price issue is that, the consumer is being squeezed by electricity in a way they haven't been before. And it goes to a larger conversation around, if you take AI build out of the GDP numbers, I mean, we'd be in a recession. And the side effect also of these massive build outs is that these data centers are consuming a ton of electricity. And, it's a very hot summer across the board to the point where a lot of our customers are saying it's so hot that people don't drink. So there's like some kind of like Laffer curve kind of happening here where it's like, the warmer it gets, the more beer you drink until it gets to like 120, then ain't nobody drinking nothing. Right. So, there's a couple things at play here. Maybe it's gotten too hot to drink. I mean, it's as crazy as that might sound. And then the other part of it too is that, maybe there's other cost pressures coming in on top of fuel that are specifically related to the summer, specifically related to how much electricity is being consumed by people that, quite frankly, have unlimited marginal dollars.
The Laffer curve around temperature is something that Lester Jones from MBWA has been talking about for a while. And there is a reverse curve. So now it is unique to market because what a Floridian thinks is hot and cold is different than what a Michigander thinks is hot and cold, or moving around throughout the country. So it's not universal across the board, but there is a curve in which you get to a point, and yes, it grows consumption up to a certain point, and then after that, it actually does slowly decline. It's like the same type of decline that it would be in the wintertime for your typical seasonality curve, but it's just overheat. It's too much.
Yeah, I suppose we should explain what the Laffer curve is. It's from economics, and it comes out of the Reagan era, which is the idea that increasing taxes doesn't necessarily increase tax receipts. At some point, the more you tax, you start getting less income into the government. And Art Laffer famously, developed that curve that the Reagan administration basically implemented on reduced taxes, and tax receipts actually went up, essentially proving that the Laffer curve exists. That, at some point you get, increasing the temperature stops increasing the consumption, and you get hot enough, it actually starts coming down the other direction. Mm-hmm. So similarly, like if you raise taxes to 90%, people are just going to stop working. right?
Lesser has talked about that. Yes, it's in some of his slides deck that he's presented on. I don't know how, because we haven't talked to him directly about it, and it's been a hot minute since I have. I don't know how quantifiable he's made it as like a real curve or made a guesstimation, but it is out there in his universe of talking points and topics for sure.
Yeah, we watched that play out in real time. We had a festival in our market that would be anywhere between 5 to 7 days during the summer, and right around the 4th of July. And it was really consistent, right? I mean, every day, as far as the people that were coming in, the amount that was being consumed was pretty consistent across the board. And we started doing experiments when it got too hot because you pop around to all the beer tents and you talk to the volunteers in their work, and they're like, people just aren't drinking today. It's too hot. So we started watching that, and you could really see consumption just nosedive, at least in Michigan, when it got to about 90 to 95, and it feels like 100 degrees, and it's just so hot. Everybody says it's too hot to drink beer, right? I need water. But we would watch that happen for sure.
The other piece here too that I wanted to touch on with you guys is, other than the calendar headwinds, what's the temperature, optimistic, pessimistic, related to numbers for August and what we're looking like for setting goals and targets for August? Aggressive, pessimistic, concerned, dealing with the selling day loss. Many clients or many distributors out there are 4 days delivery. Probably, what do we think? It's probably like 60 or I would think 60 or 70% of the people are on 4-day delivery, or is it kind of 50-50?
Probably do. I think my clients are 40% 4-day,
Okay.
60% 5. At least the ones
I've
that I
got
do.
it wrong. Okay. I've got the other side of the coin.
I was going to say 50-50.
Okay. So what are people thinking for August?
Yeah. So, I mean, Ross obviously already talked about it, but the entire week, the last week of August last year was loaded for Labor Day. That has shifted. That whole entire week has now shifted into September. So huge headwinds there. But everybody that I've been dealing with still targeted exactly how they've been doing, right? Keep it going, not letting off the throttle. Yeah, we're moving all of that load in, but we need to find that volume somewhere else. So for me, the optimism comes into, hey, yep, we're losing the build, but we're going to find it somewhere else. We're going to grow in August to get back there. So,
I mean, I thought what was interesting from my perspective is that there's a cohort of customers that we have that set budgets for the year by month, and they'll generally try to stick to those budgets as they move through the month. A good number of those customers let go of their budgets for September. So it was finally, July was the final straw that said, what we planned for this year is just not going to be realistic anymore.
were those plans, for the most part, was that a plan to grow? Or is that a plan to stay even or plan to decline?
I mean, sadly, even is the new up, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to know where their heads were coming into this year of going back to growth, or hey, if we can just still, be down 2%, we're going to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the onset of the year was more optimistic, and it's moved around a lot as we've gone through the year. But I think this is the first time I've seen people deviate and just say, I'm not going to put a goal out there that's not obtainable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go more to what the trends are telling us, more real time. So I think I had 3 clients do that. Which again, I'm talking about people that usually stick pretty hard to the budget for the year, that finally said, you know what, this is just not, again, going back to our curve. If I keep letting these goals be too far away from the reps, they're not going to go for it. So I need to back it off. I need to make this more realistic, even if it's not my goal.
It's not the budget. And that's the hard part with setting an annualized goal too on both sides of the aisle, because you could be having a rocket. We've always had this argument with clients that you could be having a rocket ship of a year, and if you stick to the goal, then is that the right thing to do, to give layups? I would argue that's probably not the right thing to do either. And if you stick to the budget and it's unobtainable, that's probably not the right thing to do either. So having some ebb and flow around the budget being, and we're getting into budget season, that people are thinking about this. We've got some good episodes that are old budget episodes. Set your budget as a guide, not as gospel. And, having it as a guide and a reference point is really important, because that's where you need to be. That's what you need to be focusing on. But we got to make sure they're not aspirational. We got to make sure that they're guides and that they're not gospels, so that you can kind of meander around them as you see fit. Setting easy goals is a bad thing. Setting too hard of goals is a bad thing. We got to have them reasonable expectations, reasonable outcomes, and some attainability on both sides. Challenge where the challenge is done, and make them attainable where obtainable needs to be made as well too. Any big portfolio changes, guys? We're getting closer and closer to the hemp, and the Delta 9 shutdown. Mike, we've got legalized heroin, and Kratom is going to be banned. Surprise, surprise. It's going to be banned in what, North Dakota?
Yeah, so North Dakota put a temporary 30-day emergency ban on all Kratom. So while they go back to the table and they look for a longer term ban, and how they're going to really separate that, because there still is the raw form of Kratom that you can get, right? It's not in the drink, or synthetic in any way. So they're looking at splitting that off and saying, all right, here, how are we going to present this ban? Is it just going to be the drinks, and anything else that's synthetic, or is it going to be across the board? But I would expect that to be extended. I don't really see this being a 30-day and then, okay, hey, we can go back to selling it, which is a pretty big hit for the states that do sell it. Our clients that sell it, I mean, it's a very profitable item. All things aside about the heroin.
All things about, I mean, that's what it is. If anybody's checked it out before, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
So and I don't mind us as an industry selling these interesting creative products. There's no begrudging of people doing it. It's just, you gotta understand that you're playing with fire a little bit, and that it could vanish at a moment's notice as well too. So
yeah,
we've got
Alabama, Arkansas, Connecticut, Indiana, Louisiana, Vermont, Wisconsin already have permanent bans in effect.
Bans on it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember when powdered alcohol came out. Do you guys know that that's a thing?
No.
So some hiker developed, he was a chemist, developed a way to turn alcohol into a powder. And the idea is that he, as a personal use, was like, I'm going to make this because I can. Like all chemists figure out how to make shit because they can, not because they want to, it's because they can. And he wanted to carry, his red wine or his tequila or whatever to a mountaintop without having to lug the weight of liquid up the mountain. And then he could just put it into a liquid and turn it into an alcoholic beverage. So he's got to haul some liquid up there in the form of water, but then he could get up there, have a drink, and then come back down.
Or he has a filter. I mean, he's just going to pull it out of the stream and filter it.
He could do that too. I remember sitting in the board meeting in Michigan Beer Wine. It was like, this can't be legal. Like, this sounds like a problem that you're going to do all kinds of weird shit with this, right?
Yeah.
And Michigan just flat out banned it. It was like, yeah, this isn't a good idea. Like, you can only see unintended consequences with this, and just was like, whoop.
Well, I'm glad you guys did, because how would you do a case equivalent conversion on that?
Yeah, on the liquid or on the powder. On the powder, for sure.
First thing that popped into my head is
it would throw off all the metrics in our entire industry. You can't have that.
I could probably name 5 of our on-premise accounts that you could easily walk into and see them doing lines of tequila on the table.
Exactly. Yes.
Hey, this is the best way to do this. You don't just.
It's just tequila, officer. It's just a shot of tequila, officer. It puts a whole new meaning to Jack and Coke. Right, Mike?
Yeah, exactly.
Other thing that popped up this week, too, is that so last Sunday afternoon, Senate Appropriations posted text about a continued resolution to keep hemp going and kick the can down the curb from November 12th to December 11th. So get a 30-day reprieve. And then not to let them die. And then on Tuesday, we had, this is a problem. When you have 35 state attorney generals show up and write Congress demanding that they let the ban take effect as written, that's a problem for the industry. Whether we agree with it or disagree with it, that's an issue that people in DC are going to have to work through. So while they continue to work through, it also sounds like that the White House is really behind trying to keep these products on the shelf, and that they're really driving the kick the can down the curb. So it'll be interesting to see how the Trump administration continues to push back on the 35 AGs and on Senate and House around how we kick the can down the curb, or relinquish the ban, or give them even further. 30 days does nothing. That it might as well be 24 hours. There's nothing beneficial to that at the end of the day. You would be able to clean up a little bit of more inventory, but if anything, like, there's no huge benefit to that. This has got to get way kicked out. A year, 5 years would be the goal, rather than just to kick 30 days. What kills me about this is that our industry has spent, since Prohibition, building the single best system to take these age-gated items or age-gated products to market. And want to give a shout out to Harry from Beer Business Daily, where he talked about in one of his news articles this week, which is like, THC is already in the ecosystem. People are already using it. People are already consuming it. We have the system to manage it that runs the age gating the best way possible. And if they already have those allocated dollars go in that direction, why wouldn't our industry try to find those allocated dollars and add that as a hedge to beer, or to beverage alcohol? So I continue to be surprised by beer distributors' perspectives on the topic, where they are very much misaligned with how this should play out. I would view it as a hedge. If I was running a wholesaler again, I think if all three of us were running wholesalers again, we would be selling it, would be finding ways to keep it in the market, would be finding ways to sell, because it's just a hedge. And you don't have access to any of those discretionary dollars that are going to THC right now. And I would want access to those in some way, shape, or form. So kick it to you guys, maybe Ross first. Viewpoints, thoughts on the new news around THC and the hemp ban pending?
I've been very vocal about everything you said, bud. I 100% agree with everything you said. I still think that there's a good chance that this stays alive. I don't know why I think that, but I just think there's too much money at play. But again, it goes back to your piece. The wholesalers need to be fighting for their best interest here, and I don't understand why they're not. It's just really perplexing.
Mikey?
Yeah. It is interesting, and to kind of go back to that too, why the White House is pushing so hard is that the White House chief of staff has a family member by marriage in the hemp business. So there may be a little bit of a driving factor there as well. But, it's getting down to crunch time. And when we made our yearly predictions, I predicted that it would get overturned permanently, not just kicked down the road. And it's not looking like that's going to happen unless they do it at the last moment. But, it really comes down to, like, what is the issue? Is the issue because it's Delta 9? Is the issue because it comes in a drink form? Is the issue because we just don't want THC everywhere, right? And money, yeah. So the regulation, we all know, it needs to go through the beer industry. It needs to go through distributors.
It's to protect the children.
It's to protect the children.
Protect the children, yeah.
It has nothing to do with
who does that best, Ross? We beer distributors protect children better than parents do. I mean, come on. But the other thing too is we are getting closer, right? And now as distributors with some of these products in our house, we start to get concerned about inventory. What does that mean, right? We have investments in inventory, we have investments in people, we have investments in warehousing space, right? And we have shelf space out there. So it is starting to get a little concerning. I reached out to a few clients just to hear if they have heard anything from their suppliers of what's going to happen with that inventory if this ban goes into effect. We've watched it happen state by state, right? Missouri banned it for 30 days, turned it back on. At that point, those suppliers picked up the product, right? They bought the inventory back. What happens if that's a federal ban? What are they going to do with all that product, right? Because one state shuts down, cool, we'll buy it back. We're going to sell it over here. A federal ban, completely different story. So I would be getting a little nervous, and probably start to definitely go through my SKUs and start to rationalize all my SKUs and like, hey, if it's not turning in 30 days, I need to really take a look at it. And I'm probably not ordering anymore, right? So that I can start to think about that and get ahead of it, but also protecting your shelf space. So what do you do in that situation? Look like
There's
you were
a
going to.
there's a whole group of people that federal ban won't matter to. Like so is weed. Like regular bud, smoke, vaping, all of that's federally still illegal as well too. Yet people in states across the country continue to sell it. So there is going to be a move. My prediction would be if the ban stays in place, these products will move to non-licensed distributors that don't have a TTB license. So nobody with a beverage alcohol distribution license, because we're the only person in the whole value chain of beverage alcohol that actually holds a federal permit, where the risk would be, do we lose that federal permit by breaking a federal law like that? And we don't know. That's one of the 7 deadly sins. You lose that, you lose everything. You're not going to put your family's asset and longevity of life of building everything that you've got at risk to sell a few cases of a hemp beer or a hemp product in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, I think dollar for dollar, it can't compete though. I mean, I think the business will go back to the shops, and our industry will have lost the marginal dollar.
And nobody's going to choose a Delta 9 product over traditional
No,
THC product.
If it shows up in a pawn shop, nobody's going to buy it because the cost of production too high relative to what you get. So it was about convenience. It was about legitimacy, and what a wasted opportunity.
Don't you guys think that it still stays on the shelf in non-licensed accounts as well?
No.
Really? So you think it leaves beer accounts altogether, and we don't have a bunch of like Tom, Dick, and Harry soda distributors and food distributors pick this up?
I don't think so.
All right, we will agree to disagree.
I just don't think it's economically viable. I think what made it economically viable was legitimacy, and it was, stigma was gone. It was in regular accounts. It was coming through normal channels. It was, but if you're just looking for THC, you're gonna go to the pot shop.
The piece that gets me that's super interesting about the legitimacy side of it is how many people continue to say they're going to sell it or start selling it, and that theme, since this ban was announced, has continued to slowly roll. There was another retailer this week, I don't remember who, if one of you guys do, that had just announced that they were going to start selling it, and another brand that had just said they were going to start dabbling with it. I don't understand why people continue to dabble with it or continue to get started selling it while the ban is pending, as if they have insider knowledge or that they're just willing to make a bet that if I'm here now, I can get lucky and ride to the upside.
Oh, I think it's time for Conspiracy Corner.
What's a conspiracy corner? Put on your tinfoil. I don't have any tinfoil with me to wrap my brain in tinfoil.
I mean, I think quite a few pods ago, we thought that these additional retailers and producers coming into the space was indication that this was going to turn. I mean, you want to put your conspiracy hat on, you're right. Let's make all the small players go basically bankrupt by pulling all their inventory back, and then magically undo it 30 days later when they're all ruined. And all of a sudden, magically, the big retailers are in position, and so are the big suppliers.
Oh, Ross, I just rewatched Dumb Money last night. It's just like when Robin Hood cut off the buying of GameStop in that whole show, and that's got eerie vibes to that for sure.
I mean, I hope I'm not right, but if you want to go deep, dark conspiracy corner in our industry, here you go, baby.
Clean out the riffraff from November to December, relaunch in January with fresh.
I mean, why acquire them? Just put it around a business and then way cheaper that way.
Oh, just try.
You're already paying off all the politicians anyway, so there's no incremental cost.
You can't beat them, delete them.
Can't beat them, delete them. There's a good tagline for the episode. Can't beat them, delete them.
Can't beat them, delete them. There we go. Oh gosh, I hope that's not true.
The other part, talk about a bright spot, is that flavor continues to grow, and what's interesting about flavor is that Bump Williams ran 52 weeks through June 6. Total alcohol dollars down 3.3, traditional alcohol down 4.3, flavored alcohol up 3.3, so a 6% change. Now 13.8 share of all beverage alcohol. So the flavored and top 4 growth brands in the entire industry are Cutwater, Buzzball, Surfside, Sun Cruiser, and those brands continue to excel as well. And those are the growth brands. I mean, Cutwater's numbers are insane, up 100% year to date, off of another 100%, from last year. Like, the dollars are starting to pile up because the base is so large now for that brand. And Beatbox, I don't think is that far away from those type of numbers either. Um, Below that, what happens is that the price tag is still really high. And this is to that K-shape economy, Ross, around how that better product, higher end, premiumized product still continues to excel. I will consume better but less, or better and less. These products play in right into that. And I also found that a lot of these brands are like brand new to world brands too, right? They're not from some of the largest beverage manufacturers, like born and bred out of them. They're new to world. They're coming from new people. They're new innovations. Some of them may be bought, like Anheuser-Busch, Cutwater, new to world, has been purchased. Um, Beatbox new to world was purchased. Like, that has happened, but you've got Surfside new to world, still independent, and then like the other side too that really is just starting to show up in the numbers is like the Spikeade stuff and the Gatorade, the Gatorade spiked kind of products. So, Mikey, flavor, when we're talking to Rouse, when we're doing new implementations, like, are these still coming up? Are people talking about these? Are you thinking about them in your goal planning? Are any brands popping up that you continue to talk about specifically around this too?
Yeah, I think one that's left off of there that was a big share gainer this year too was Good Boy, and their teas with John Daly. That's been just on fire as well. I
It's
mean, all the
really
teas,
good
right?
product. It's
It's
really,
a
really
really
good
good
product.
product. And I
Yep.
was on the golf course yesterday, which probably surprised most because I'm not a golfer, but I was on the golf course yesterday and they had the new screwdriver flavor. I tried that. That was delicious. But they continue to innovate too, right? Where some of the other teas have kind of just sat in their own little place and they have John Daly on the can. That always helps. But but you're right. I mean, when we go to the on sites and we're talking flavor, some reps are like, oh yeah, this is doing good and this is doing good. I'm selling a lot of this. They don't really connect the dots of the entire category and how the whole entire category is because maybe they're only selling one or two. And when you start talking about it, like, yeah, well, that makes total sense. I do have some more heart teas, or I have some other flavored stuff that I could throw at it. But it's still a really big topic that we get out there, because of the trends. You can't ignore the trends and how popular it is right now. And then some other reps are just like, yeah, this stuff's on fire. So let's get it everywhere. But one of the first things that we usually talk about, because it's hidden opportunity, it's incremental. That's what we talk about the most, right? Impulse buys, incremental dollars on top of everything else. And that's what a lot of these brands really bring to the table.
Yep. Ross, anything else on that Flava Flav profile too?
Nah.
Nah.
Nah, I love it. Nah.
Nah. If it's not fancy wine, it's not for Ross.
I was gonna say, I mean, let's define flavor here.
Okay, not Chardonnay. High Noon too is down, and Cutwater is up. Mikey, when High Noon came out, like, I would have never predicted that it would get eaten into at the pace that it's starting to get eaten into.
Yeah, that's true.
Week after week, month after month. We have typically seen that, like, the market leader like that has continued to stay the market leader for a while. Do
You say
we
that, I
think
remember what happened with White Claw.
White Claw stayed the market leader in malt? So, like, if you break down, we're picky here, right? So this is me
Yeah,
being picky.
but you got eroded pretty quick too, in terms of incumbents are, and in terms of new entrants coming in. I mean, it was everywhere. Like everyone who drove down the street, there was White Claw cans all over the place.
Well, let's argue about this a little bit. So White Claw malt was eroded by, I view it as another category, being the spirits RTD rather than
That's fair.
the malt RTD category. But the White Claw, as far as the owner operator of the malt business is still king in the malt seltzer business, like far and above. Truly tried to, Bud Light Seltzer tried to, all the other people did, but those are the malt categories. So I'm just being picky about
No, you're right. You're right. People
that
migrated
kept that
towards.
category. Yeah. And I think that the White Claw lost steam to its shift in category. And then they shifted to do White Claw hard RTDs with the spirits, and they were not able to keep up with High Noon and everything that High Noon's doing. What I don't know though is this High Noon down 9% focused around High Noon, or is it the brand family of everything that High Noon's doing? Because the Peaches brand, everything else that they're doing with Dave around that brand, like that's got to be a little bit of cannibalization out of that too. So I don't know in the numbers here of how I'm looking at it, whether those are cannibalizing or and counting classic High Noon or total Gallo High Noon business as a brand, as a mothership brand or a mega brand would be the right terminology, I think. Right, Mike?
Yeah, and you would think that the tequila pack would be eaten into that too. Are they separating the two, the original and everything else? But um, a lot of it, I mean, Cutwater obviously hit the world stage with its Instagram and TikTok videos that were going around, right, and really put it on the map overnight. But there's also that other component that Cutwater brings to the table that might be eating into High Noon a little bit more, and that's the ABV, which we've seen that pattern shift over the last year and a half too, with people going towards the higher ABV products that are out there, especially in the malt family, right? So I wonder if that has something to do with it as well. I mean, outside of the TikTok thing, but hey, I can get a 4-pack a little bit cheaper than that 8-pack, but it's really going to double my punch in alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Last couple of things I want to talk about. Beer Institute's final read on the World Cup. About 2 million incremental on-premise cases were sold nationally. That's a ton of product for just the on-premise. And host metros were up 31.2. This is Andrew dropping some more knowledge to us. Generating 2/3 of the whole lift. Stadium concessions up 41%. Bars and taverns up 39%. Restaurants up 23%. Non-alcoholic beer 2%. Beverly's point from last week's pod. Strongest segment at up 60%, which is crazy. 59.5 if we want to split hairs. But off-premise was down 2.6 in host markets and 4.2 nationally. And total beer volume still fell 3.3 over the tournament. So that kind of backs up that the host markets were huge. They gained that biggest bang. I love when Beverly said around like the bars woke up. Everybody started coming there. Fun conversation with those girls, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it all caught us by surprise with the NA, but it makes sense, especially the timing of some of those games too. Wondering if that had to play into more of it than anything else. But and we talked about it in that episode, but I really hope that people remember now that having a few beers in their local bar is fun, and they should do it more often. Get together with some buddies, have a couple beers, right? Well, even if they're non-alcoholic, it's still fun to be out and have conversations.
Go have
What I
yourself
thought
a
was interesting is,
final.
I mean, I was at the edge of the world, and I think I said this before, and you know, the Oregon coast, and walked into the local pub there, and there were some Brits there on the game. I think that was fun because, I mean, no matter which game you walked in, there seemed to be people from that country there. I'm like, where have these people been? And it's kind of fun seeing somebody that cares that much, you know, even after the United States was knocked out. You know, going in and watching the Mexico game, watching a bunch of Brits and a bunch of like Hispanic guys, you know, scream at each other from across the bar was endless entertainment for me.
It had to have been good PR for America in a big way. Yeah, get some ranch dressing in you, go to some Bucky, see
Go
some
to Buc-ee's.
supersized shit. I mean, some of these posts on social media were absolutely hilarious. Like, look how big the gas station is, and look how much food I can buy, and look at this giant tub of ranch I can get. Like, these are things that, like, when we say the European mind can't comprehend these things, like, this is what we do really well. Like, this is our profession.
Well,
Yeah.
did you see the one too about like the customs agent, like back in Germany, like guy comes and he's gained like 40 pounds in like 2 weeks.
I did not.
Like, the guy's like looking at his ID and he's like, "This isn't you."
This isn't you. You don't look right.
He's like holding like a stick of fried butter.
Oh, nothing like a couple fried Oreos to pack on the pounds in the summertime. I love it. Beer Purchasers Index also hit 51 in July, which is a slight expansion. Anything above 50 is expansion for the fifth straight month at or above expansion points, and 9 points ahead of last July, which is really good. F&B seltzers jumped 16 points to 55%, and craft is still at 26, still struggling. So again, kind of lines up with the other things that we're touching on, continuing to support in that world too. If you like what we're doing, continue to listen, like, and subscribe, share with a friend. If you have questions, you can hit us up at info@vxptech.com. That's info@vxptech.com. We'll be back again next week with more insights from the Tapped In Pod. I'm your hostess with the Moses Bud, here with Moneyball Ross and Data Mike. Boys, you guys rock, and cheers, everybody.
Cheers.